It all started on a rainy night when the city was drowning in neon lights and my life, which I thought was stable, was about to collapse in ways I could never have imagined. For years, I had been the one carrying my family's burdens, working long hours in the business my father had built from scratch. I wasn't just an employee, I was the backbone, the strategist, the one who stayed up at 3 a.m. crunching numbers, fixing deals, and making sure everything ran like clockwork. But despite pouring my soul into that company, I had no idea that my family was already plotting a betrayal so sharp, it would cut me to the bone. Before I dive deeper, let me ask you, have you ever trusted people so blindly, thinking they were your safety net, only to find out they were sharpening knives behind your back? If you've been there, you'll understand why my story isn't just about money. It's about loyalty, betrayal, and revenge. But before I tell you everything, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss stories like this, because what happened next turned into the kind of nightmare you only hear about in whispers. The night I discovered the truth, I was still in the office. Everyone had left, but I stayed late like usual, finishing up a presentation that was supposed to secure us a multi-million-dollar contract. The company was thriving, at least on the surface. Yet I had started to notice odd things, financial documents missing, deals I hadn't signed off on but were already executed, clients pulling out without explanation. At first, I thought it was simple mismanagement. Maybe one of the managers was making mistakes. I never imagined the conspiracy would lead right back to my own family. My younger sister, Amelia, had always been the golden child. She was the one with charm, beauty, and the kind of smile that made people forgive her instantly. Growing up, I did the heavy lifting, and she did the easy smiling. But I never resented her, not until that night. When I walked past my father's office, I noticed the light was still on. Curious, I pushed the door open just a crack and froze. Inside, my father and Amelia sat with a man I recognized, a lawyer who specialized in corporate restructuring. On the table were stacks of papers, contracts, and what looked like a transfer of ownership. My father's voice was calm, deliberate. Once the papers are signed, everything will be under Amelia's name. She'll be the sole heir and owner. He doesn't need to know until it's done. My heart stopped. He meant me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My father, who had always praised my work, who told me one day the company would be mine, was planning to cut me out completely. And Amelia? She was smiling like it was her birthday. She leaned forward and whispered, "He'll get over it, Dad. He always does. He doesn't fight back." I stepped back silently, my pulse pounding in my ears. My entire body shook, not just from anger but from disbelief. How could they? After all the years I sacrificed, after losing friends, relationships, and even my health for this company, they were stealing it right from under me. The next day, I confronted my father casually, trying to see if he would confess. Over breakfast, I mentioned the new contract I had been working on, testing if he would share details. Instead, he gave me a half smile and said, "Son, sometimes life changes direction. Don't be too rigid about the future." His words felt like a dagger twisted inside my chest. He wasn't even ashamed. That night, I decided to dig deeper. I stayed at the office again, hacking into restricted folders, pulling out hidden documents that were supposed to be off-limits to me. What I found made me sick. Secret accounts in Amelia's name, transfers of millions, assets quietly moved overseas. My father and sister weren't just planning to push me out, they were siphoning the company's wealth to leave me with nothing but scraps. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I had a plan, not just to survive, but to fight back. The first step was silence. I didn't confront them again. I acted like everything was normal, pretending to be clueless, nodding along in family dinners while Amelia bragged about her new responsibilities in the company. Inside, though, I was a volcano waiting to erupt. But then came the ultimate betrayal. My father called a family meeting, claiming it was time to discuss the company's future. I sat across the table, trying to read his expression, but he was calm as ever. He slid a paper toward me. "We've decided," he said, "it's best for you to take a step back. Focus on something else. Amelia will lead from now on." I stared at the document. It wasn't just a suggestion, it was a legal transfer. My name was being erased from the company. "You can't do this," I said, my voice shaking. My father's tone hardened. "You'll always be family. But business is business." "And Amelia?" She smirked, leaning back in her chair. "Don't take it personally, brother. You've always been too serious. Maybe it's time to let someone with vision take over." That was the moment something snapped inside me. The brother they thought was weak, the son who never fought back, the man who sacrificed silently, he died that day. In his place stood someone who would burn everything to the ground if it meant justice. I signed nothing. Instead, I quietly copied every file, every secret document, every shred of proof of their betrayal. Over the next few weeks, I built my case. I discovered that Amelia wasn't just reckless, she had already sunk company funds into her personal lifestyle. Luxury cars, parties, vacations, even a secret penthouse no one knew about. If this got out, it wouldn't just destroy her reputation, it would bury the company in scandal. But I wasn't ready to strike yet. I wanted them to believe they had won, to laugh in my face, to underestimate me one last time. Then came the night of Amelia's grand celebration, a party she threw to announce her new leadership. The hall was packed with investors, clients, and family friends. My father stood proudly beside her, introducing her as the future of the business. Everyone clapped, cameras flashed, and Amelia soaked in the glory like a queen. But while they smiled, I prepared my move. Hidden in my briefcase were the documents, the emails, the bank transfers, all the evidence of corruption. I waited until the speeches ended, until Amelia raised her glass for a toast. And then, calmly, I stepped onto the stage. "Before we celebrate," I said into the microphone, my voice steady, "there's something you all should know." The crowd quieted. Amelia's smile faltered. My father's jaw tightened. And that's when I dropped the first bombshell. As the days passed, the tension in the house didn't fade, it thickened, like storm clouds refusing to break. Emily kept her distance from her parents, pouring herself into work at the gallery and trying to rebuild her peace of mind. Yet every night when she came home, there was an unmistakable tension lingering in the air. Her father's silence had grown heavier, her mother's glances sharper, and her younger brother Jason had stopped even pretending to speak to her. One Friday evening, Emily received an email that froze her in place. It was from the family's lawyer, Mr. Donovan. The subject line read, "Urgent, transfer of ownership dispute." Her stomach dropped as she opened it. The email explained that her father and Jason had attempted to claim partial ownership of her $30 million inheritance, arguing that Emily was mentally unstable and unfit to manage such a large sum responsibly. Emily's hands shook as she read. This wasn't just betrayal, it was war. Her own family was trying to strip her of everything she had worked to protect. But instead of breaking down, Emily felt something ignite deep inside her. A fire. She clicked her pen, pulled out a leather notebook, and began writing. The next morning, Emily visited Mr. Donovan's office. "I want to fight this," she said firmly, her voice steady. "And I want to make sure they regret even thinking they could take what's mine." Mr. Donovan leaned back, adjusting his glasses. "You'll need evidence, Emily. Proof of their exploitation. If we can show manipulation, financial dependency, or any attempts of coercion, the case tilts in your favor." Emily smirked. "Trust me, evidence is the one thing they've left me plenty of." That night, Emily pulled out old journals, receipts, and even bank statements she had quietly kept. Jason had borrowed money countless times under the guise of emergencies. Her father had pressured her into paying off debts that were never hers. And her mother, though less direct, had guilt her into expensive gifts and family contributions. Piece by piece, Emily assembled a timeline of manipulation. Meanwhile, at home, the family's masks began to crack. She overheard Jason on the phone one night bragging to a friend, "Once Dad finalizes this, Emily won't even see it coming. She'll be broke in a year, and everything will finally be balanced. She doesn't deserve all that money anyway." Emily recorded it. The very next week, court papers arrived at the house. Her parents tried to look shocked, but Emily could see the calculation in their eyes. Jason's face turned pale when he realized she wasn't backing down. For once, he was speechless. Weeks turned into months as the case unfolded. The courtroom became a stage where years of suppressed truths were finally unleashed. Emily sat across from her family, her expression calm, her notes meticulously organized. Her father's lawyer argued that Emily's success was built on family sacrifice and that her wealth should be shared for fairness. But when it was Emily's turn to speak, her voice cut like a blade. "Fairness," she said, rising from her seat. "Fairness is when support is mutual. Fairness is when love isn't conditional. What I received wasn't fairness, it was chains disguised as family loyalty. And I have the records, the receipts, and the recordings to prove it." The courtroom buzzed. Jason slouched lower in his chair, his face flushing red. Her father clenched his jaw so tightly the vein in his temple bulged. Emily's lawyer played the recording of Jason bragging about taking her money. Gasps rippled through the room. Then came the bank statements, showing her father siphoning funds. Then the testimony of a neighbor, who had witnessed her mother screaming at Emily for refusing another loan. By the time Emily was done, the facade of a loving, united family had collapsed into dust. The judge leaned forward. "Given the overwhelming evidence of manipulation and coercion, this court rules that Emily retains full control of her inheritance. Furthermore, any future claims by the defendants will be dismissed as harassment." Emily didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply gathered her papers and walked out of the courtroom, her heels clicking like the final nails in a coffin. But the story didn't end there. 2 weeks later, Emily was hosting a private gallery exhibition. Her paintings, abstract yet searing, drew a powerful crowd: investors, art critics, even local celebrities. She was radiant, glowing not because of the wealth she possessed, but because of the freedom she had reclaimed. In the middle of the event, she noticed 3 familiar figures slipping in through the door. Her parents. Jason. Their faces were pale, desperate. Jason approached first, his voice trembling. "Emily, please. I lost my job. I don't have anywhere to go. I need your help." Her mother clutched her arm. "Sweetheart, we didn't mean to hurt you. Families fight, but we always come back together. You can't just abandon us." Emily looked at them, really looked at them, for the first time not as her family, but as strangers who had chosen greed over love. She inhaled slowly, then said, "Do you remember when I begged for your support? When I asked for love without conditions? You turned your backs. And now you stand here asking me to forget it all?" Jason's lip quivered. "I was wrong. I thought I deserved it." Emily tilted her head, her eyes sharp. "What you deserve is a chance to rebuild yourself, without me as your safety net. I'm not your savior anymore." Her father stepped forward, his voice breaking. "Emily, please. Don't do this." She shook her head. "I didn't do this, Dad. You did. All of you. And now you get to live with the consequences." With that, Emily turned her back, leaving them standing in the gallery, surrounded by strangers, drowning in the silence of their own downfall. The crowd, unaware of the family drama unfolding, erupted in applause as a critic praised Emily's art as a raw reflection of resilience. She smiled faintly, not for the recognition, but for herself. For surviving. For rising. For reclaiming the narrative. That night, when the exhibition closed and the last guest had left, Emily stood alone in front of her largest canvas, a storm of dark reds and burning golds. She whispered to herself, "They thought they could break me. But all they did was make me stronger." The silence of the empty gallery wrapped around her like a warm blanket. And for the first time in years, Emily felt something she hadn't thought possible to appease. Because sometimes revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about choosing not to let them destroy you. And Emily had chosen.